So, I'm going to go off script because I have autonomy and free will granted to me by Axe Bloom, and I'm going to start this panel a little differently. I heard something today, and I want to dig into it a little bit more. I heard the phrase, if it was profitable, it would already be done. Now, I know what we're talking about, I know why we say this, but I challenge this, because we are literally, all of us, are here today to invent solutions to things that have not been done yet. So we need to leverage that. We have a bioeconomy panel that is going to talk about innovations and the unique crossroads we have in the Central Sierras. And I'm going to repeat to you something I have to say to myself, to my team, every day in operations. We can, we will, and we must do this. There's really no other option. We have to get it right. With that, no pressure on you guys to solve all of our problems today. But with that, I do want to ask each of the panelists, what unique resources do we have here to lead? I mean, truly lead the state and the nation in biomass and other biosolutions. Alex, you want to go first?
I purposely did not want the first seat, but here we are. So I think I'm wearing a nonprofit hat. That's who I work for, the nonprofit. And we're, I think, in this county, in this region, really uniquely poised to come together. We have great, contractors that are local. We have great educational resources like the Forestry Corps. And it's just continuing to build those connections so we can synergize off each other instead of trying to compete with each other, which I heard earlier this morning, which I really liked, because that's a big thing that, at Yosemite Rivers Alliance, formerly TRT, a big thing we talk about is we've gone through the trials and tribulations of, trying to implement the Zero project. How can we help other organizations who are kind of coming up in their own large-scale landscape level projects not make the same mistakes where it'll put you a year behind or 2 years behind, or you start running and you fall down. So I think we have a really unique bioeconomy ecosystem that we can start to really web together.
I agree. I would add to that we really have. Look around. This is late in the day. A lot of folks have already left, and look how many people are in the room. And we get together and we talk, and I don't think that's something that happens everywhere from folks that have worked across the state. They've been consistently impressed with the way we collaborate in Tuolumne County. But we do have a supply chain on both the supply and demand side that is probably far ahead of a lot of regions. The other thing is there's a significant cost on the other side of that. Tuolumne County is the highest incident per capita of the California Fair Plan of any location in the state, I believe, and we're just getting smashed, as most of you know, with the cost of that. So there is an effort to acknowledge that and to kind of lean into projects in our area because we are most at risk. So I think all of those, as you said, the problem is the solution. In some cases, the cost is also the driver for the solution. So.
All right, I'm Cristiana Darlington, and I've been working as a consultant in this region, and I also work as a county council in the past, and I work as an air district council. I just wanted to give some background about what I'm about to say. So from my perspective, this region has a really engaged local government process and a local government alliances, like through CSED, for example, which you don't see in other places. I don't want to name names, but in other counties, it's the fiefdom of the county, of that county, and they don't talk even to their one neighbor very often. And here you're seeing multi-county and city participation in these kinds of discussions, and I think that really stands out. That will help in your permitting as well, because that means that county staff can collaborate with other county staff, and planners can figure out how to permit these complex projects. So it is about educating staff that are doing the permitting, and that's where you can really see the difference, and then you can engage with your community, like this recent project that you just went through in Tuolumne County, and the outcome of that is, an engaged constituency and the project's still moving forward. I mean, that is incredible. It really, how, even though it took a long time and, all of these things, but, looking at how that worked compared to other counties, it's really impressive.
Hi, I'm Tom Perry. I'm with Phoenix Energy, and we do bioenergy projects at the community scale. So we take waste wood and then convert it into electricity and biochar and potentially transportable renewable fuels and carbon credits. And so as I think about this question, what does the region have that's valuable? I mean, we think about this all the time. How can we monetize all of the outputs that we can create through our projects? And so the first obvious one is like electricity. The second one is really carbon credits, because they're transportable outside the region. Biochar you can't really take very far. But what this region has, aside from prodigious amounts of wood that can be converted into other things, and a lot of that wood doesn't really have much of a merchantable aspect to it, and that's why there's a lot of burn piles. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I see is this region is influential on costs for the entire state, whether that is like electricity rates, water, insurance, and health. The problem is that although this region can, influences those rates, there isn't really a good way to turn that influence into money. So, I mean, if we can set up projects that reduce the amount of wood that would go up in a forest fire, that's a benefit to homeowners throughout the state. There's no mechanism right now to get paid for avoiding these consequences, and I think that that's something that we, need to look at, because once you start to do that, you affect stakeholders outside the region.
I'm Alex Bloom. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the Mobile Lode Workforce Development Board in the Central Sierra Economic Development District. There's more. Don't get it. There's lots of other stuff there too. I think I'm on two parts here for what resources this region to be the premier region throughout the state. One is the comprehensive ecosystem around biomass. Right? We utilize the entire continuum of biomass in this county and in this region. We have partners like Heartwood Biomass, right, who are utilizing the top third of the tree. We have partners like Sierra Pacific Industries that are utilizing the bottom 2/3 of the tree. We have partners like Jamestown Energy that are taking everything else. So really what we have is the opportunity to really leverage this complete ecosystem around biomass, to utilize each part of the tree, to really utilize everything that we have in the forest. I've said this many times, but when we leave value-added wood in the forest, we're literally leaving money. We are leaving money out in the forest. The second part is the ecosystem around support. And this was kind of hit on with Alex and what Sean said, but it has become my understanding that there are very few regions throughout the state of California, and perhaps the United States, where workforce development works with economic development, works with government entities, works with community-based organizations, works with education, and they all work in lockstep to support industry. This is not universal. In fact, it is probably antithetical to what the norm is in this industry. So to have that level of support is a significant business attraction tool.
Thank you, Alex. Matt Hart here. I have two hats today, one with Momentum, which is a company that helps design, fund, and implement clean energy technologies, and the other is the chair of the Bioenergy Association of California, which is a really wonderful industry association that advocates for the markets that we need to promote bioenergy. So please look it up if you're not already a member. There is also a membership meeting in the Oakland area in 2 weeks, 1 week, 1 week. And anybody is welcome to come. Please reach out if you are interested and want to learn more. when I look in California and this region and I see the resources that we have, the thing that really stands out when we look at a lot of different innovation is simply the amount of woody biomass that California has, both in the forested lands and at the ag centers. And what that really means is there's a whole lot of scale for organizations that can figure out how to enact with the forest economy, with the wood biomass economy. And despite how difficult it can be in California to do projects, you still see a lot of bioenergy technology innovators here, like Tom and Greg at Phoenix Energy.
Hold on to it.
I want to shout out Matt real quick, and then I'll let you go. We work with Matt on both the Momentum side and the Bioenergy Association, and I'm very, very proud and excited to report that CSED actually received a $4 million grant this morning for the Rev 2.0 rural EV charging infrastructure. So we'll be soon implementing 17 rural EV charging networks. I'll pass it back on.
Okay, I am a terrible moderator. I didn't introduce anyone, but fortunately you all can introduce yourselves. Thank you for that. So I'm going to direct the next question to two of you. Matt, you can go first. What infrastructure, specifically, if you could pick one piece of infrastructure is most urgently needed to accelerate bioeconomy projects in this region?
That's a tough one. Where I see the biggest challenges in a region here is the cost of transportation. One of the things that was really driving a lot of that industry was the larger biomass plants, and a lot of them came up in the 80s in order to help bring renewable energy to California. As utilities have looked to cheaper solar and wind options, we've seen a lot of those shut down, and I think they've pretty negatively impacted transportation collection in the region, making it more expensive.
What about Tom?
I feel like Tom would know some more.
Well, I mean, infrastructure to me means like stuff and, organizations. And I'm going to answer it a little bit differently. I think the number one and number two issues that we have are attracting private money. And private money means professional money, whether, it's venture capital or private equity or loans that, are not usurious. That's one thing. And then in order to get that money, and we love grants, like we get grants, but that's no way to fund a business. The second thing is we have to figure out new and better ways to sell the outputs better. I mean, the best way that we can sell electricity right now is to sell it to PG&E, who will buy it, and then they'll double the price, and they'll charge people in the community double the price, triple the price of what we could, produce that electricity for. So, if we can produce electricity for 15 to 20 cents all in, right, there should be a way for that community to buy that electricity with a reasonable fee to whoever does the transmission and distribution. That is one example of what's essentially handcuffs on the entities that are trying to create value in the region. And I would tell you the only company that's making a lot of money hand over fist is PG&E, right? That is an extraction of wealth that is happening from this region to San Francisco. I live in San Francisco, I love it, but I'm not making $18 million a year like PG&E's CEO is. And until we start to look at that problem and fix it, I think we'll be similarly, challenged. There are some innovations that are happening, not just technical innovations, because I don't see our, problem being technical, maturity of the stuff that creates the energy. It's the business model and regulatory, blockers that are in the way. So, an example is behind the meter projects. Creating electricity and selling it to, for instance, like a cold storage facility or a data center. You might have, I'm just using these as examples, that would pay for the energy at a market rate. And the market aspect of the economy is so important. If we had, you know, large load customers in the area that would pay for the electricity, that would be a boon. And so again, we have to think about, you know, large consumers of electricity that, you know, we might be able to partner with.
Thank you, Tom. You actually got me thinking for Cristiana and Sean. Is current regulation and permitting helping or hindering the bioeconomy? And what changes would give us even more momentum towards our goals?
So I work with a lot of different counties and cities in California, and it really is location specific whether or not environmental permitting is causing a problem for a project for development. There are many counties in California where projects can work really quickly through their environmental review process. So I don't think it is accurate to say that the California Environmental Quality Act is just for sure a hindrance. Like, you have to unpack that and figure out how it's being handled at the local government level, how educated staff is, and how much resources those staff have to process the project that's coming in front of them. That's really the answer there. I want to mention that through a grant that the Mariposa RCD has from the state, my company is working on CEQA handbooks for all 7 jurisdictions in CSED right now that will be specifically geared towards bioenergy and wood product businesses to help them get through CEQA permitting. And it's just starting. Sean just heard about it. But I'm coming to see all of you at staff to talk about the project very, very soon. It's just getting going. I did want to mention NEPA really quickly though. So NEPA has changed a lot. And if you aren't following NEPA law, I did want to mention to you that NEPA doesn't look anything like it used. I mean, NEPA is still there, but the CEQ has basically been taken off the board. It no longer controls the regulatory environment, and the federal agencies can no longer rely on CEQ for input or advice on how to implement NEPA at its agency. So each federal agency has to go through the process of figuring out how to comply with NEPA due to a couple of Supreme Court cases. I did want to mention those just in case you're curious. It's 7 counties versus Eagle County. It's a Colorado case that went to the Supreme Court. And then it's the Marin Audubon Society that came here and went through the 9th Circuit versus the Federal Aviation Commission. So those 2 cases actually have completely upended the way CEQ and NEPA regulations work. So if you do work in NEPA, I highly recommend having a chat with those that you work with on the topic.
Am I the only guy who doesn't know what that act is?
Oh, NEPA. The National Environmental Protection Act, and NEPA is a regulation that you have to do to go through to do fuel reduction work on federal lands or work on federal lands for any kind of project. CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, same thing.
I know that one already.
So I'll just do a little sidestep and just say how important it is just to get in rooms like this and collaborate. Cristiana and I have talked about this issue quite a bit, and yet I didn't know about all this exciting new stuff that's coming, which aligns perfectly. Her timing is impeccable to support what we're doing next. We have a grant from Sierra Jobs First and Sierra Business Council, which we're very grateful for, to add capacity to create a programmatic CEQA for Tuolumne County high-value fuel reduction project areas. There have been some other programmatic projects like this, and so what we were trying to do is work smarter, not harder with this. What we really want is for all of our partners to be able to opt into this and access these permitting pathways. That's going to increase our grant competitiveness. It's also going to allow us to make the most use of our grant performance periods, because we're not going to be stuck waiting for environmental compliance to be completed. So we see real value in that, and also identifying pathways that really do focus on maintenance and making maintenance that is less expensive, more accessible, make sure we have all the tools in our toolbox. So those are some of the things we're going to try to develop in this capacity grant.
Pass that to Alex again. So Alex, in your work, what type of training, skills, workforce pathways are most necessary to build the robust workforce you and your team need to complete these treatments?
I've thought a lot about this, and the big one that came to mind at first was being able to develop educational programming and workshops for local contractors on how to write bids, how to be competitive, how to make yourself marketable against very large corporations who are either in-state or out-of-state who can bid very well on these very large projects. So one of the things that we eventually hope to do through partnerships is be able to put on educational opportunities like that. We also, I think, our organization, and I don't know if I said so, my role is Forest Health Program Manager for Yosemite Rivers Alliance, and so one of our core mission goals with our name change is really education, community engagement, and so partnering with our educational institutions like Columbia College to provide an early career kind of pipeline. I think we're really well suited as a nonprofit to have someone come in for a season or for 1 or 2 or 3 seasons, learn really great on the ground forestry work. I'm one of our staff foresters. We also have an archaeologist and a botanist, among other project managers who can really share some great wealth of knowledge to prepare those individuals to then go and work for SBI, work for in the biomass industry. So those are kind of some of the bigger ones we're looking at.
Perfect. Okay, for
Can I
Bloom,
add real quick?
you can add whatever you want.
Another thought just popped in my mind. I had the opportunity to work for Foothill Horizons when I was out of undergrad. So I grew up in Oakdale, and one of the big things that kind of we talked about there was people have a really hard time caring about what they don't know and what they can't touch and can't see. And so a big thing that I would like, our program to develop is what we talked about internally is leading community workshops of like, what is forest health? Because for those of us who don't work in forest health, it's a really ambiguous term. And so being able to lead community educational, field trips essentially, on SBI land, on, private and public land, of like, this is what a field work is. This is what we're doing in your backyard, to get better buy-in and get that buy-in locally. And we have an office in Modesto and the Bay Area, so getting that buy-in across, the state.
Yeah, I love that, making the work we do tangible. Alex Bloom, if we can migrate it down there. Alex, I'd like to ask you, how can our job training, workforce training, all these different pipelines, even entrepreneurship, how can it better prepare people for the realities of industry in the bioeconomy?
That's a great question. I think when we look at the landscape of workforce in the natural and working land sector, we have a lot of existing programming. And really, when I think about the future, is that this particular industry sector is always adapting and evolving, right? What works today may not work a year from now or 2 years from now. So programs like the Greater Sierra Forestry Corps run through Columbia College equips young people in this area for a number of forestry-related careers, and it really works at the speed of industry, it being a 16-week program. But thinking about a complementary ecosystem around those forestry careers, like Alex Gorman was talking about, we're talking about biologists, we're talking about soil scientists, we're talking about GPS and mapping specialists. There is a huge array of different workforce pathways that complement this industry. And so when I think about the workforce of the future for this, I'm thinking about all those other careers, right? We're looking to boost programs like the Greater Sierra Forestry Corps and the Forest Stewardship Training Program at Columbia College and Saracoso College, but also kind of all those corollary and tertiary occupations that support the work that actually goes on in the field. So working with new educational partners like Stan State or other community colleges throughout the Central Valley, really working to expand that programming to get people to support the industry sector here. Talking about entrepreneurship, and I'll just give it a quick minute on this, I think this is one of the key critical components of the natural and working land sector. Innovation is a key component of the bioeconomy. Looking at partners like Beam Circular in the Central Valley that was awarded $67 million to build a bioinnovation campus, that could be us next, right? I would love to see a bioinnovation campus come to Heartwood Biomass and bring young entrepreneurs into careers and into building businesses in the Sierra region that will support our economy and develop economic prosperity.
I love that. I would like to do a lightning round next. So each of you should keep your responses to less than 90 seconds. Can we do that? Yeah. Good. So let's pretend it's the year 2030. All right, let's pretend we're in the year 2030 in the future. we have a successful regional bioeconomy. What has to happen in the next 12 to 18 months to make that reality?
I would say as we look to moving forward, it's exactly the work that we're seeing CSED doing, pulling everyone together, because in aggregate we can make a thriving bioeconomy work, but one project in and of itself really has to pull a lot of weight. So getting a lot of the projects together, moving forward together, everyone sees benefits from each other. Alex, I think you already mentioned a few of the companies here that already rely on each other to keep working together.
Matt stole my answer. So I can read off my paper. No, I think collaboration is it, right? I think events like this and continuing organizations like LEAF as an industry association to really convene partners and bring people together to develop collaborative solutions will be one of the key components to success in accelerating this industry. And it's because of all you in here today that we're able to start catalyzing that momentum. And the idea is to keep these conferences and keep this association moving forward through the future. So keep engaged, keep collaborating, and that's really where I see the solutions building and really growing momentum here in the next 12 to 18 months.
I think there are a lot of good process-oriented ideas here, collaboration being one of them. I would really want to propose some results-oriented initiatives. And so for me, within the next 12 to 18 months, that would be something like Microsoft or Google investing in a project in the region, number one. Number two, real proof of like a microgrid, biomass-based microgrid, or behind-the-meter applications, or something that indicates like the value of a circular project and can be exported, because I think this region, aside from having a lot of wood and a very forward-leaning infrastructure, is the potential to be a center of excellence, a knowledge center for the rest of the United States, which is going to get screwed by 2030 with electricity and grid, electricity prices and grid dysfunction.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so from the legal perspective, there's a new exemption in place that was passed. It's for bioindustrial processes and manufacturing. It's SB 131. So let's see a county or a city in this region in CSED lean into that exemption and find a project to use that exemption. So that's an very practical application. And then the second one would be, we need the roadmap for a bioeconomy ready for the next governor. We need to have it written, and we need to have explanations in the roadmap about how each state agency gets to play ball, particularly California Public Utility Commission. So that is we need to be ready to explain to whoever it is, because nobody knows who it's going to be. Whoever it is, this is the way. And we all have to agree on it and get it to them in 12 months. That's all we got to get it there.
Yeah, I think the entire supply chain, biomass supply chain, and on both the supply and demand side are critical, but that key cornerstone investor is going to be also critical. We're going to need some significant infusion of funding, but yes, we need to have a plan. So, agreed.
I've come prepared with bullet points. So I really see, Yosemite River as a facilitator, and meaning in the next 12 to 18 months, we need to launch targeted contractor training and bid education programs, including, we do so much work on federal land, which has funding, but a limited scope sometimes. The work on the private land, the funding is hard to come by, but we can do a lot more. So getting our contractors locally kind of geared up to do cone collection, to do these different type of work that would then, supply woody biomass. We need to create equitable access to contracts and funding, a skilled, locally sourced workforce with clear career pathways, foster partnerships between education, industry, and government to align workforce development and bioeconomy needs, and create incentives for small businesses to enter and stay competitive in the bioeconomy.
Can we please give a round of applause? Definitely going to take it easy on those guys. This really is special. We have so many experts gathered in this room, and so I know I applied a little bit of heat, and you all did deliver, but we need to keep these conversations going. It's one thing to have these conversations. Every once in a while, we have to act on them. I think I'm going to pass this off to Mr. James Hansen now. I don't know.
I got it.
All right.
First one I saw.
All right, you're good. Thank you, Bioeconomy Panel. Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Bioeconomy. Thank you very much. And thank you, Rose, for moderating. All right, everybody, we've hit that point. It's the end of the day. It's time for some closing remarks. And thank you all for staying, really being engaged. What do you got, Kathy?
Because it's following
That should be
James.
fun.
There we go. Thank you.
We'll talk offline. Okay. All right, so it is that time where I hand the microphone off to my esteemed colleagues, James Hansen, Business Services Manager, and Dave Taney, Executive Director at Lode Job Training. Give them a round of applause.
It's actually not about giving us a round of applause. Dave and I did not do half as much as Alex, Sophia, Connie, and Annette. So please give the Motherlode Job Training team a huge round of applause. So first and foremost, when we're putting on these things, there's a vision behind what it is that we're doing here, right? And so what our vision for this is that these types of convenings will be a conduit for folks from industry, education, workforce, CBOs, and partners to come together so that we can align towards specific outcomes. Outcomes that will uplift our communities, outcomes that will uplift the folks from industry. I saw there's a lot of folks from industry here today, the folks that are doing the work in our communities, right? When we're all on the same page, that means that we can be and have a force multiplier towards what it is that we want to see in our communities. A lot of times I've seen it doing this work, we live in silos, right? Very rarely do we come together and figure out what a true partnership is going to look like. Very rarely do we put on the wall the Venn diagram to see where our goals and your goals align. And it's not always going to be every goal is going to be in alignment. But when we focus on where that overlap is, that's where we can build progress. And so as we close today, I want to say thank you to everyone who stuck it through. I want to say thank you to all of our presenters who came up here to share their experience, their expertise. And I want to tell you that we want to be that connective tissue, the one that can help connect the partners, connect the people who are doing the work, and ensure that we're uplifting our industry. Because when we have the contracts to do this type of work going to local employers, right? Those local jobs have local impact, and those dollars stay here in the county or in the region, and that's what I want to see. So a couple few things here. That's my thing right there, a couple few. On the back page of your agenda, there is a survey. Okay, there's a QR code to a survey. Please complete that survey. Please send us an email. Please give us feedback on how this event went for you, what you feel may have been missing, and how it is that we can do better. Because we want to see this become an annual conference where we come back next year and we break out a yardstick to see what kind of progress we've made towards the things that we've talked about in the room today, and figure out what the goals will look like going forward, right? So please complete that survey. Additionally, our small team here, me, Alex, Sophia, we have a pretty small team to put on something like this, right? We're going to be coalescing the data from the event today. We're going to be sending out the notes from these once we're able to go through the recordings and go through all the stuff so that we can get you a condensed version of this. And we will also be sending you the presentations from today. That'll be going out to the entire RSVP list. And that includes the folks who are tuning in from the virtual world as well. And so I'd like to turn it over to Dave Taney to fully close us out.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming. And I want to, on behalf of Central Sierra Economic Development District, I wanted to introduce our chair from Alpine County, Terry Woodrow. And CSED is administered by Mother Lode Job Training. We have some board members here from Mother Lode Job Training. Are you still here? Frank Lashinsky and Rose Day, and we have, all kinds of people. Now stand up if you're a Mother Lode Job Training board member. Justin from EDE. Okay, thank you. So, representing Mother Lode Job Training, we see workforce development as a lever to drive economic development, and that's why we took on both of these roles. We promise that between these conferences, we will continue to collect and aggregate the voice of industry and feed that back to you and design programs with all of you that will move the ball forward. I forget who said this towards the end here. Hey, we need action. We need to see progress. So conferences are nice, but we want to take what we learn here and try to programatize that in our various agencies and make sure that we can help move the ball forward. I also want to thank our sponsors, CLERE, the California Law Empowering Renewable Energy Corporation. We have Cristiana is here from CLERE. Thank you, CLERE. Sierra Business Council, who is the what are they called? The regional convener for Sierra Jobs First. Also has a sponsored portion of this event, and also the K-16 initiative as represented by Columbia College. Go ahead and stand up over there. We've got the dean of CTE. So, and then last but not least, Chicken Ranch. I think they put on a great show for us today. They're hosting us nicely today, so thank you, Chicken Ranch. And we got the air conditioning turned on after a while, and got that working. So that's it. I will officially close this conference, and with the commitment that we'll continue between conferences to be your industry, trusted industry partner on this. So thank you very much.